You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me today. Welcome back to our second house call of the weekend. This is where we answer all of our community's questions each and every weekend. Really looking forward to today's show. And it's funny, I wanted to start off the show by literally just saying, even though I've been recovered from my own health issues for quite some time, and I've gotten, a sense of what I call a new normal, meaning that every day now, I do wake up with energy. I do feel great overall. Of course, sometimes I'll travel, I'll get less sleep, or sometimes I might catch the latest cold that one of my little girls brings home from school. But for the most part, 99 out of 100 days, I'm feeling pretty good. But it's funny because I was in actual wellness client appointments all morning and it ran a little late. I had a bunch of Skype calls today, just experienced a big blizzard here in Boston, so we kind of switched over some of our appointments, even if they were local, to more of Skype, so people didn't have to worry about coming in. And then, of course, there were calls from all over the world. And I had a little later lunch. And what happened was when I got finished with lunch, I literally was hit with this wave of fatigue. And that's not something that I'm used to, which is kind of funny because I lived my life in a state of fatigue for about a decade. I always had brain fog. I always feel worn down. I always felt like I needed caffeine. And it was a very different feeling for me to feel that. And what I looked at it was wow, even though I was experiencing this real general, overall body fatigue, brain fatigue, is that I said, it is so amazing now that I can look back and say, this used to be my normal. It really was. This was my normal. And now I'm, dealing with it for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then my body snaps out of it. But what happened was, and the reason I wanted to share this was this can happen to all of us. And, truly, if you have an off day, an off couple hours, it doesn't mean that you're unwell. It doesn't mean that you're imbalanced. Something happened within your body, of course, where it feels a little bit more run down. And for me, simply, it was being out of alignment with what time I typically have lunch. And I hadn't eaten for probably 6 hours because the day had gone long. So then I ate, all the blood moved to my stomach. So I had less energy for the brain, less energy for the body in general. But, I just thought I'd share that and just let you know that really every single one of us, no matter how well we do get, no matter, the body transformation that we might get to our ideal weight, we're still going to have a day where we look a little softer, we feel a little puffier, we gained a little weight on the scale for maybe no apparent reason. We don't really know why. Now, of course, there's always a reason why, but we might not always know it at the time. And, you got well or, you got rid of all your digestive-based issues, but then all of a sudden you got bloated one day. Remember, these can be temporary things that don't necessarily stick with you. Don't let it get you down. Understand how far you've come on this health or body transformation or anti-aging journey, and that don't let a little blip in the road become your entire life. Don't let it psych you out. Spoke with a lot of people today where, a lot of their healing now is going to come from the psychological standpoint, meaning that their body's better. We retested. There's no candida left. There's no bacterial overgrowth. Their body's balanced. They look pretty good. But now they have to transform that mind as well. They now have to realize they're a new person. It's time to move on. It's time to create a new life. And when that happens, I'll tell you, really amazing things can happen within your life is when you tell yourself you are now free to create the life that you want. So I'm going to keep it there before this turns into an entire motivation and mindset Monday. I'm going to save that for tomorrow. I do hope you'll tune in for that show. So what I can't wait to do is now use this energy that finally came back to really give that to these questions today. And I want to get through a lot of questions. I know that these questions are piling up. I apologize, about that. I know that we're 3 weeks or so behind and the questions keep coming and I'm happy to answer them. I'm going to do my best. I will never shortchange someone on an answer, that's for sure. But if I answer some of the questions a little quicker, or if I also point to previous podcasts, that's what I would like to do to try to get more of your questions because I know people need a place to start and I want to be able to help provide that. All right. Thank you for tuning in again, and let's get started. Alexis is up first. She writes in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm slowly working my way through your podcast, and I have to say they are life-changing. They've actually replaced my music while working out. I learn so much each time. I need some guidance on where to begin. Sorry, I apologize about the misstep with reading that, and I actually read the 2 lines backwards, but I do appreciate that, Alexis, that you are listening to the podcast during a lot of your workouts. I do a lot of the same to listen to some of my favorite podcasts, some of my favorite motivational podcasts, all sorts of different things. Although I enjoy music, not as much as I enjoy learning. So thank you for that. Now let's move on to your question. So wondering what functional lab tests you should begin with to start the new year. You live a healthy life, work out 6 days a week, do some high intensity training, rarely eat out, always buy organic. Time to go to bed, I'm leaning far too late. Okay, you go to bed late, 12 to 1 a.m. I've been having odd issues creep up the last 2 years, developed a skin condition called Dermatographia, also called skin writing. I'll explain what that is in just a moment. Basically, when I scratch an itch, it gets red and it swells. I also have high cortisol levels, 24 in the morning, 21 at 5 p.m. My cortisol binding globulin is also high. I struggle with anxiety and have all my life. My fasting glucose is a little high. However, my A1C is normal. I have a sore in my nose that I can't get to heal. My initial thought was pre-diabetes, but I'm not overweight. And with my A1C being normal, I'm stumped as to what's going on. 33-year-old female, 5'7", 133. Any insight would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. All right, Alexis, I see this all the time in my practice, literally all the time. And I know that everyone thinks that these things are very rare and they're almost one of the only people with that. But you have to keep in mind that there are thousands, if not hundreds of other thousands, and sometimes millions of people suffering from exactly what you suffer from. And they can get well, and they do get well, and there's always an answer why. And the reason why I can say I've seen so many of these things in my practice is because I usually just see the oddest, most rare cases or, those types of things. That's because people have they've stripped out their options and, what's left? Okay, well, maybe we'll try this. And so here's the thing. Sure, pre-diabetes, without a doubt. I went through the same thing. I was type 2 diabetic, but I was type 2 diabetic because I had cortisol-based issues, and it seems like you have the same exact thing. A lot of people have to realize, and again, when I say have to realize or don't know or any of these things, I don't expect anyone to know. I didn't know it. Most other doctors don't know it. Most health practitioners don't know it. You just have to be obsessed with really understanding and wanting to know how the body works at such a deep fundamental level in order to heal yourself. And then, in my case, is just being able to share that then with others. So what happens is when your body is extremely stressed, high cortisol levels like you, okay, well, what happens? Well, your body needs immediate fuel. This whole thing about ketones, sure. I don't deny any of that. Your body produces ketones and it can use them. There's no doubt about that. It does that at a more relaxed state. When you're in fight or flight, when you have high cortisol like that, your body needs glucose. Bottom line, it's going to find a way. So what happens is this. Your body's going to start to produce its own glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. And that is from breaking down liver glycogen to actually create its own sugar in the blood. So it doesn't mean that you even have to eat sugar. Your body will make its own sugar, and it can do that through liver glycogen. It could also do it actually through breaking down actual tissue of your body, muscle tissue, and being able to use the amino acids and, all sorts of nutrition from cells, but also any glucose stored there. Since the majority of glucose is actually stored in the tissue cells, but it's not typically utilized in that way. And that's because your body has 2 backup systems before that. It has your blood glucose, and then it has liver glycogen. So that's why it's typically not used that way. However, it can be used that way. And also, again, I test elite athletes as well. So I'm testing CrossFit athletes. I'm testing Olympic athletes. I'm testing Division I college athletes. And after a workout, they don't eat anything. I say, test your glucose before a workout, test your glucose after a workout, high intensity workout. Tell me what it is. They'll go into a workout with a blood glucose of, let's just say, 82. After they work out, 270. Okay, how did that happen? They didn't take in any sugar. How did their blood sugar spike so high? Well, stress in the body, increased need for glucose. Now it's in the blood. So do keep in mind that, yes, okay, work on blood sugar regulation, but work on blood sugar regulation as a consequence of lowering stress and anxiety. So my number one test for you, and I'm going to get to this whole thing about urticaria. Let me get to it now. Dermatographia, also sometimes called urticaria, sometimes called, as you wrote, skin writing. But what happens is someone scratches their skin and it leaves a red mark or almost like a welt. This is a form of a mast cell-based issue, so mastocytosis. I dealt with this, not particularly this particular thing, but hives and all sorts of different issues. So It's a form of allergy. It's a form of hives. It's a form of histamine. It's a form of mast cell production. And this is because the immune system is aggravated. The immune system's turned on to a very large degree. It's very clear, very straightforward what I would recommend to you. The first test, hands down, is the thyroid plus adrenal plus hormone. If you don't want to spend the extra money for the thyroid, simply run the adrenal hormone panel, okay? Simple saliva test, easy to do, run it right at home. That will show you your cortisol along with the other hormones. If you feel like you already know enough about your cortisol, great. Move on to the second test, which is the organic acids test. Find out why you might have this turned on immune system. Is it just because of stress? Or is it because you have candida overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, SIBO, as I did, leading to then a really jacked up immune system, meaning that one side of your immune system is just turned on high and you're not able to then degrade histamines the normal way that an average individual will be able to do because you lack the atrophied villi inside the intestines, the inability to produce certain enzymes to degrade histamines, and so on and so forth. So those are the first two, and then I would run a hair tissue mineral analysis if you're able to. That's what I'd recommend. You'll get my recommendations from that, and you'll get to speak with a health coach. If not, I gave you a lot of information to start with, so hopefully that helps. Lance is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I work with people who have long-term illegal drug use in their past. My clients are in early recovery, and I firmly believe that nutritional changes can prevent more negative consequences in their lives. I'll be using your Motivation Mindset podcast to uplift and help them set new goals for success. What type of nutritional changes would you initially suggest for people who have anywhere from 5 to 30 plus years of amphetamine use? So this is a great question, Lance. And, you are to be commended, my friend. I'm, thrilled when I hear people working in the health field, and especially working with people who need, your help the most. And I just think that that's phenomenal. And here's the thing. A lot of people who have drug addiction-based issues, especially amphetamine use, methamphetamine use, are really dealing with low levels of neurotransmitters. I mean, this is not, again, I always say this and I don't ever want to sound that I'm ever being condescending or anything like that because I'm not. But for whatever reason, we're not taught about biochemistry in the human body. As health practitioners, we're just not taught that. And you just have to go, again, into continuing education, looking more into the research. Why would this be? Why would this be? Just keep asking why. So this is very clearly studied, and I wish I have all these books, and I can never remember the titles off the top of my head. I read a lot about amphetamine and drug use, and one of the issues is that a lot of people who get into amphetamines, which just essentially looking for a way to stimulate the body, they're lacking dopamine. Okay, I spoke about this on a previous podcast as well. And they're lacking sometimes epinephrine. They're lacking the get up and go. And these amphetamines help with that. They help with the focus, the drive, the energy. And then what happens is they become addicted because they need that. I mean, it feels so good. They feel like they're Superman or Superwoman. That's a big part of it. But another part of that is the low blood sugar. So a lot of times people with alcoholism are dealing with low levels of neurotransmitters, low levels of sugar in the actual blood for various reasons. I mean, so many reasons. And they're turning to alcohol and things like that to give them back what they're missing. And because it does work. And the same with smoking. So here's what we need to do is we need to start people with a foundation for eating. And Lance, I know that you could teach this to people, even if you made a cheat sheet for them. So here's what I want you to do. And this is for everybody. I want you to go to episode 637. It was called Use This as the Foundation for All Diets. Okay. That is one of my favorite episodes. I'm going to do a top 10 episodes for just like nutrition, for all sorts of different topics in the future. The problem is I need a bigger team. I really do, because I certainly can't do all this myself. I have an amazing team, and we just want to be able to provide more and more. And I believe we have the content now. What we need is just easier searchability with 700 plus episodes. So episode 637, use this as a foundation for all diets. And then what I'd like you to do is also use episode 648, my top 10 rules on eating well, because I'm a big believer that if you give your clients back their natural energy through nutrition, they won't need to look for things like amphetamines in the meantime. And then also, if you want to check out my caffeine weaning protocol, because a lot of people coming off amphetamines need a little bit of caffeine to like make that transition. And then eventually you get those adrenals working well, you get that HPA axis functioning properly, and you're able to wean them off the stimulant of caffeine as well. So hopefully that works. And again, I know that it will. It's just you making the breakthrough with your clients to help them to see that they can really make the change that they want. Okay, Dennis is up next. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I'm trying to control with the AIP protocol and the autoimmune protocol. But after 2 years of this, I'm still having problems. If I try the food sensitivity test, would it show what I have when I've been on a restricted diet? I have severe brain fog and had some hand joint inflammation and bad hair loss. Do you or your team have any advice for me? I recently found your podcast and love it. I hope you can help me. I've seen 2 functional medicine doctors and did a lot of testing, but not much helped. I went to someone who reads energy, and she did help some by adding sunflower oil that stopped the dehydration problem. Then adding B vitamin helped some brain function. Any help would be appreciated. Sincerely, Denise. Oh, I apologize. It's Denise. The E got left off the beginning of your name in the beginning. So Denise it is. All right. Here's what I want to share with you, Denise. A food sensitivity test from an IgG perspective is still very helpful. It is. And I do recommend that for almost every human being alive. Now, in order for you to maximize that, what I would most likely do is eat foods you've been off them for a couple of years, so you might want to do it for a week. At least 2 servings, meaning like 2 feedings, because a lot of times with the food sensitivity, what happens the first time is you eat the food, but there's no reaction. But it primes the immune system, okay? It primes those white blood cells. The next time you eat the food, you actually get the reaction, whether it's a short-term IgE or a longer-term 24-plus hour latent-based reaction, which is what we test for the IgG sensitivity, because it's more difficult to find on your own, and that would happen as well. So, I mean, to get the most out of it, I always tell people, have a breakfast sandwich. And again, don't do this if you're sensitive, if you know you're sensitive to dairy, wheat, or eggs. But, those are the 3 most common allergens. So if you'd like, you literally have, bread with a piece of cheese, and you have an egg or 2. And now you had yourself the 3 most common food allergens. Most people love breakfast sandwiches. I find them delicious. However, those are the most common food sensitivities right there. But it will prime the immune system and get to see if you are sensitive to it if you had that 2 different days in a row, and then you ran your food sensitivity test. However, for anyone with RA, hands down, you come into my practice or you meet with one of my health coaches who, again, are phenomenal to work with, can't recommend working with them enough, is that you'd run an organic acids test by Great Plains Labs, hands down, best lab out there for looking at gut function. There are a lot of great labs, but this one has 75 biomarkers, meaning that I talk about it for gut function, but it's going to assess B vitamins, it's going to assess glutathione, it's going to assess even folate. I mean, it's amazing. Really, really great lab. Mitochondrial issues. It really is fantastic. So I'm going to have you do that. And I'm also going to have you do an adrenal hormone test, an omega-3 test. I'm going to have you also do a hair tissue mineral analysis test. Now, if you can't afford all of those, I completely understand. There's a cost to all of these things. That's what I would be recommending, though, in the omega-3 test to look at your actual inflammation-based levels from an omega-6 to an omega-3. Because sunflower oil, although it could be beneficial in its raw state, they use in Ayurveda, can have a little bit of a higher omega-6 based profile. So what I'm saying is those are the tests that I would run. In order of importance for you, what would I do? Okay, I would run an organic acids test, a hair tissue mineral analysis, then I would run the adrenal panel, and then I would run the omega-3 test. That is what I would do. And if you can't run those, okay, understood. Meaning they're just not within the budget. Again, I want to be fair and I want to understand that, and I completely get it. So if you're not able to run those or even the organic acids test, which again would come with my recommendations, I would like you to do the 21-day Dr. Cabral Detox. Now, that's the same cost as basically food. So that I know most people can do. And by the end of that, you should see a little bit of a reprieve from those specific symptoms. And you'll also get to learn our style of eating while at the same time detoxifying the body, getting that liver to pump harder, move more toxins out of the body. That's what it does, okay? So we call it a detox, but what is it really? Well, it's a liver-based support process. And yes, it has to do with decreasing the total toxic load on your body. All right, Gary's up next. Gary's asking, hi, Dr. Cabral. My name is Gary from Philippines, and I'm interested in your book. Do you have the paperback version yet? I'm interested because I believe in reversing ailments. My son was diagnosed with autism, and I'm following GAPS diet for him, and we're seeing improvements. Hope to hear from you. Regards, Gary. I will tell everyone the story of this book and why it's been delayed in the future. It's one of those things where I believed I was doing the right thing for people. Essentially, here's the bottom line. Everybody who's listening to this podcast on this show, they get the inside scoop before anybody else. I tried to get this printer done through a third-party printer that could print the book for me at half the price of me going through the publisher, because I had opportunities to publish this book like I published books in the past. I wanted to do it as low a price as possible because I want to give this book away for free, and you'll see that very, very soon. Of course, I'm going to ask people to pay for shipping. I hope that that's fair. I can't actually give it away and print the book, the cost. I wish I was that independently wealthy. But, here's the deal. I did it, and the only way I could do it for under $10 to basically give the way at cost was to print it through a third-party printer. Things have gotten backed up. They really have. It's unfortunate. I wish they didn't, but I'm going to promise you that this book is going to hold a lot of the answers that people want. And the reason I wrote this book is so that I can teach other health practitioners, which I'm going to start to do more in the future. And number two is that the general public can use this book to heal themselves, even if they never meet with me, even if they never work with anyone in my practice or a functional medicine doctor. I am doing my best to disrupt the healthcare system, which is really a sick care system, to allow people to take better control of their health. And this is going to be the book that I believe will do that. And if it doesn't have all the answers that people are looking for, then I will come out with a second edition. And I promise you, I will add more of what people are looking for to that book. However, it is 400 pages. It started out as a little over 700 pages. It is a book that is loaded with content, no filler. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I give you the exact detox I use. I give you the exact nutrition plan. I give you everything in that book. That is my, it sounds conceited to say it's my gift, so I don't want to say that. But what it is it's me paying it forward. That's a much better way of saying it. It's me paying it forward. I was taught this through thousands of books of reading, through studying all over the world, through my mentor, through Ayurveda, through TCM, through everything that I've had the opportunity to study. Because who knows why I got so fortunate to get so sick, and who knows why I got so fortunate to then be pointed in certain directions that have now led me to realize these answers. I don't know how it happened, right? I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for focus and wanting to figure things out. But again, we don't know why these things happen. I'm grateful, I'm fortunate, and I'm trying to pay it forward. So it'll be to you soon, Gary. Here's the thing. I can tell you right now, GAPS is fantastic. What I look to do is this. I run organic acids test. Maybe you have a local practitioner near you that could run that urine-based test. Or you can do something called the Children's Candida and Bacterial Overgrowth Protocol. I work with children with pandas and tics and autism and ADD and executive function disorder and ADHD and OCD and all sorts of other behavioral-based issues as well. And we get great results. We clean up the gut first. We seal up the gut. We help them digest food better. We eliminate all the food-based sensitivities. And then we start to repopulate the gut. It works well. It works great. I wish you the best. Now, can't wait to get to this question right here. It is our 1000th question on the Cabral HouseCall. So congratulations, Bree. You are our 1000th question. Again, can't believe that we've really been at this a little over, let's say, a year and a half or so answering your questions. 1000 questions now answered on the Cabral HouseCall. It's an absolute honor. It's been a pleasure. And I can't wait to answer this question because this kind of sums up with my work and what I want it to all be about. And that is just trying to give back, trying to get people these answers. So let's get into it right now. Bree's asking, hi, Dr. Cabral. My 3-year-old son has recurrent Impetigo breakouts around his mouth. He was prescribed a topical antibiotic ointment, which I put on the sores as soon as they start. Usually takes about 2 weeks for them to clear up. It doesn't seem normal for constantly to be getting those sores. There must be something wrong at a deeper level. He's generally healthy otherwise, no major health issues. Typical 3-year-old, does have a terrible diet. He pretty much refused to eat anything green. Sometimes I get him to drink a smoothie, but is pretty mild for him to drink. So mostly fruit and a bit of spinach. I'm thinking my next step is to get the sores cultured. What are your thoughts? Thank you so much. All right, Bree, thank you again for writing in. Thank you again for being our 1000th question. So my pronunciation of Impetigo is pretty poor, but that's okay. What it is, though, it's a staph or strep-based infection. So typically, this particular bacterial-based infection is just a staphylococcus-based infection, streptococcus. And what happens is that our skin, so this isn't, again, who knows how you find these things out, but I used to have terrible folliculitis. And our skin is supposed to have a very specific pH. And it's supposed to be able to kill other bacteria because it has its own little army there when other bacteria gets on our skin. Now, for people whose immune system isn't functioning well and whose gut isn't functioning well, sometimes the skin, which is another layer of immune-based function using IgA-based cells, a lot of other immune-based cells, is not able to kill this bacteria because when we get a bacteria, let's just say such as staph or something like that on our skin, that should last maybe a couple hours. That's it. That bacteria is supposed to be dead, killed, really made inactive within hours by our own body. So, because our own body is able to commensurate for other types of bad bacteria. It's kind of like, you're on a plane, someone is coughing beside you and all sorts of nasty mucus is coming out. And why don't you get sick? Well, your immune system was able to respond to it appropriately. Yes, the bacteria or the viral or whatever the pathogens are entered your body, but your immune system killed it. It did a great job. Okay, same's supposed to happen on our skin. So here's the deal. We need to fix up this gut, whatever's going on. You could have your son run that organic acids test that I just spoke about, or you could do the children's Candida and bacterial-based protocol, or you could simply use the clean gut probiotic, and you would use a half a capsule upon waking. Just put it in water, totally fine to do, or in the smoothie, and a half a capsule before bed. And that will help push out a little bit of yeast and start to repopulate the gut. So basically, first choice is organic acids test. Second choice would be like a strong, now you would find out if you needed this, the Candida bacterial overgrowth protocol by doing the organic acid test, or you could just do it if there's any type of bloating, any type of gut-based issues, or just start to add back in that clean gut probiotic and then potentially do a little bit of you would use about a quarter scoop to a half a scoop maximum per day of the healthy gut support to kind of seal up that gut wall. Again, a quarter scoop, very, very small to start to seal up that gut wall. And then again, really try to clean up that diet to help the immune system. No food dyes, limit the sugars, try to get the processed food out. We need to rebalance this immune system. And then when it gets the sores, well, you could use topical based products that I've talked about before, tea tree oil, grapefruit seed extract. Any of the products by Nutribiotic are excellent as well. So, Bree, thank you for asking that question. I'm going to get one more question in today just because it's a quick one and I want to get a couple more of these done. So, Kevin's writing in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I was wondering if you could provide me with 2 nutrition books that most impacted you. I'm going in the nutrition field and I crave to learn more about the topic." Okay, so Kevin, why don't I give you 2? I'll give you 2. Well, of course, you asked for 2, so why don't I give you 2? All right, now, there's a book that I talked about many podcasts ago, and it's not very well known, but I really like the book, and I give it to my personal trainers that I hire to give them a little background on nutrition, because a lot of them are phenomenal personal trainers, exercise physiologists, but they don't know a lot about nutrition in general. So one of them I like to give them is called The Food Connection by Sam Grassi, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's an older book. Now remember, do I recommend everything in it? He recommends sometimes a lot of soy or like white bread before bed to produce serotonin. Again, I don't recommend that, but overall, it's a fantastic book. It really is. And so it's a great book, and I love recommending great books, so I would read that. And the other one that I would read is, it really depends on what you're looking for, but I would love people to start to learn more about like an anti-inflammatory diet. So one other great book is called The Anti-Inflammatory Diet Plan by Monica Reingal. And so those are 2 great books. I would check those out. The Food Connection by Sam Grassi, and I would recommend The Anti-Inflammatory Diet by Monica Reingal, who actually I used to work with at Nutrition Data. She was the lead nutritionist, I believe, there. And I was one of the writers for Nutrition Data and Self Magazine and Condé Nast. I don't actually mention that before, but I did that for 3 years. I wrote over 1,000 articles for Condé Nast Nutrition Data, which is, I believe, the largest nutrition portal, or at least was back then on the website. So great questions, everyone. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you tuning in. And I can't wait to bring you tomorrow's Mindset and Motivation Monday. Tune back in. We're going to have a great start to the week. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stephencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.